Alright, continuing from my last blog post, we're going to talk about nothing for a second. Because as I've managed to get internet exposure, my first top pick for a producer to help me with my album, meeting my favorite bands, and they've also said that they'd be down for touring in the future, and I've had to analyze what I've done extensively and compare it to what's been done in the past, because I really want this to succeed as much as it can, at least as much as possible in this niche genre of music we do. When the whole big mainstreaming of industrial happened in the mid-90s, I was too young to be into music at the time. I didn't get really into music until I was about maybe 12 or 13, and it wasn't until I bought the Mortal Kombat Annihilation soundtrack, because I wasn't allowed to see the first movie, that I got my first exposure to industrial, really, and I had no idea what it was. Up in Alaska, there's not really a scene or anything, and no one really listens to anything except kind of like hick metal, hick rock. Most kids listen to, like, Limp Bizkit was coming about, Korn was huge, all the Slipknot kids and that whole scene. That was the closest we had to an alternative scene, so no one knew what the fuck industrial was. I eventually got jobs and was able to afford my own CDs and able to go back through the catalog of the mid-90s industrial stuff I was too young to really get. And nothing, in my opinion, was one of the most interesting things to happen in the mid-90s. And the reason I say this is because basically a fan who liked music, a style of music, got to make an album, and then he got to share his success with people he thought that were interesting enough that people needed to hear, and perhaps shift the curve of music a little bit. And I think that's one of the greatest experiments to happen in the 90s, because it was not decided in boardroom meetings by demographics or anything. It was just, I fucking like this, I think other people will fucking like this, let's give it a shot. And of course, nothing is important, because also, before I was into Nine Inch Nails, I was a complete Manson fan. And at the time I was a huge Manson fan, I didn't actually have money to buy any of the CDs or anything, so I had to tape off the radio hits. My first real Manson album was a second-generation dub cassette of Smells Like Children, and that was the most creepy, ear-opening experiences. At first you think the tape player's broken or something, but no, it's just the small hands of children, and then Diary of a Dope Fiend, which really exposed me to how weird music could be, because I never heard anything that weird before. And my first real exposure to Nine Inch Nails, because Head Like a Hole never really got played up in Alaska. To say that Alaska is 10 years behind the times would imply that the times eventually do catch up there, which they don't. So, my first exposure to Nine Inch Nails actually was flipping through MTV one day and catching The Perfect Drug, and that really sold me on the band, because I never saw anything so depressing, so like me at the time, that I just wanted to crawl into that video. So the reason I'm bringing up Nothing is because those two bands in particular, Marilyn Manson and Nine Inch Nails, as I got older and more into making music, once I got to the stage of producing demos and decided I really did want to make a shot at trying to get some sort of a deal going and be able to play live on stage and do all the cool stuff that hopefully will be my future here. I had to, since they had such, not just commercial success, but they achieved something no other artist did, really. They had a special kind of, it was slick, at the same time it was dirty, it was packaged so well. I don't think any other band could have pulled off what each of them did the way they did if they weren't them. If that makes any sense, which I don't know it does. But I had to look up, I started researching Marilyn Manson first, and For the record, my first exposure to Manson was around, I told you, Smells Like Children, but that was around Antichrist era, and I had no idea about Portrait of American Family. It wasn't until I got older and was able to afford my own CDs, I went back through the catalog and found Portrait, which is my favorite of the Manson albums, just like Pretty Hate Machine is my favorite of the Nine Inch Nails CDs. But as I'm studying them, I saw starting with Manson, I saw I've watched the Driven special on him 50 million times. I've watched the Interviewing the Devil or Unmasking the Devil or whatever that documentary is a lot of times. Obviously not enough to remember the title. But I took notes, and part of my image for this thing is I have to have an image because image is fun. And I'm making a band and an album that, if I were to go back in time and hand to my 13-year-old self, would be my favorite band of all time. Which is really how I feel about how a lot of artists should go about making their stuff, is to impress themselves, maybe in a different mindset. So, I'm having to dissect his image and see what made it work back in the 90s. Because I want to do something like Manson did, where he got an entire nation of idiots pissed off at him. At the same time, he's pointing and laughing the whole time, going, "You fucks don't even realize I'm playing you like a goddamn puppet." I don't want there to be any middle ground about my band. I want people to hear it and see it and either just love it or hate every aspect of it. That's just how I feel about it. But I really want to poke some buttons. And devil worship and just cursing is not going to do it anymore. In today's age where kids are like sexting each other, and it's like, goddamn, where was that when I was 13? Seriously. What I've decided is you got to poke a lot of different buttons now. And to do that, I've had to think, what's happened in the last decade or so? What are people pissed off about now and a little bit touchy about now that no one's really saying anything about or doing anything? Because music, there always should be that one guy that everyone rages against. Alice Cooper, Ozzy, Manson. Who's been around the last 10 years that's like tried to do something nearly on that scale? I mean, you can say it's just because changes in music have happened, but I really think no one's giving it an honest-to-God, well-thought-out shot. So, realizing that I have to poke different buttons and seeing what's happened, I am going to embody everything that the people in this country I don't even want to get to know hate. Starting with just the look. For one, I'm a brown person, so right off the bat, I'm gonna just make every America retard uneasy just seeing me to begin with. And I have very soft facial features. The chicks here dig me, so now that I realized I'm cute, fucking Alaskan guy to female ratio, I am going to play that up a little bit because I look pretty twinkish when I'm all prettied up. So I'm going to be either a anime style cat boy or a Japanese schoolgirl, or probably some hybrid of the two. I'm thinking of doing a Nevada-ton cosplay cat girl hybrid thing. Basically, I have to become something that every parent does not want their kid to be, and I don't even frankly want to be me. My arms are covered completely in scars and cigarette burns and lots of things I wished I could take back. So I'm going to present those on full display, because really they should be discouraged, and look, if you don't stop now, look what you'll become when you enter adulthood. The band members are also going to be these weird anime style, well, anime influenced, really weird looking characters I've created. And they're all going to like threaten, they're all going to borderline look like just warped versions of what I grew up with. Like, back in Manson's day, he grew up with, like, Smurfs and Scooby-Doo and, H.R. Puffin stuff and all that kind of thing. I come from a world of Nintendo and Dragon Ball Z and Power Rangers, so I didn't plan on just straight up ripping off Manson in that aspect. That just kind of came naturally. But I'm going to be playing with a lot of hentai imagery. I'm going to be playing with a lot of just kind of perverting everything that a lot of us that were born in the 80s still remember about the 90s that kids today really don't have any idea about, except just vague pop culture recollections. The music itself is also going to be, you can probably tell it is a little influenced by Manson, not as much as Birthday Massacre, but it is influenced by Manson in the sense, at least lyrically, that it's blunt and he's just pissed off about things. And when I started writing the lyrics to this album, it was actually when I started recording this, back before Dean got involved. And I was listening to a lot of Bill Hicks at the time, because my first CD that I did that got big on the internet, I literally used lyrics I scrawled on notebook paper back in high school, so that's why it comes off as ultra angsty and just stupid. But I started writing lyrics. I started really getting researching, going back and listening to a lot of the stand-up I got into as a kid, the angry stand-up with Diet Hicks, Dennis Leary, and then back to legit Hicks. And actually Hicks was probably the biggest influence lyrically. So I tried to make something just blunt and angry, and if I have a point I'm trying to get across. The biggest thing I want to say on this album before I just launch into just whiny, I hate my life crap is, okay, not that, but I want to tell people, wipe your minds clean of all preconceived notions of what you think the world is, and shut off your TV, shut off your radio, stop watching American Idol, stop watching Fox News and all mainstream American news, stop listening to idiot talking heads on the AM radio, both sides of the political spectrum. Just get out, talk to people, try and create your own worldview based on what other people around you give you as experience. Even though I spent all my life in Alaska, I use the internet as a window to the rest of the world to see non-objectively what it is Americans are missing, and it is surprisingly, well, not surprisingly, I knew it the whole time, but it is a fuck ton of stuff. God, I'm so eloquent. Oh, one more thing about Manson. He is, in my eyes, the greatest fucking rock star on the face of the earth, because he wrote the greatest rock song on the face of the earth, Lunchbox. And I can tell you, I got beat up a lot. Oh, fuck. Actually, I got beat up a lot, usually because I liked Manson. I was literally one of 3 people at school that liked Marilyn Manson, and I was not one of the Manson kids walking around in makeup. I had big buster glasses, striped shirts, and basically did everything I could to avoid being noticed by my peers. So now we're going to talk about 9 Inch Nails, and let's be honest, without, as much as he would not like to admit it, Manson I mean, without 9 Inch Nails there would be no Marilyn Manson. I know people, even him, would say not in this form. I'm saying no, not at all. I don't think it ever would have gotten anywhere beyond the status that a lot of the bands he interviewed when he was still a journalist got, as far as status in the mainstream world. Maybe, but he would have had to tone down a lot of the elements to make it a lot more marketable towards the other labels that weren't interested in him because of all the extreme elements of his band. And shit, I had gone back to Manson. We're talking about 9 Inch Nails now. So as I started studying 9 Inch Nails and its origins, I discovered about Purest Feeling and where his influences came from, and how he got his deal by researching the labels beforehand and all that stuff, and saw how the producers took Purest Feeling and kind of evolved that into Pretty Hate Machine. What they took away from the original demos, what they added, going for a whole like album structure, how you rearrange songs, and all that fun stuff. And in doing so, I also researched a lot of the reception and the response that his initial imprint on the scene caused. Like, I will never understand fully the Nine Inch Nails hate from the 90s that came from a lot of places. You can obviously see where his influences come from, but to say he just straight ripped off shit it's just so blatantly ignorant. You have to, anyone that does not take from something else, subconsciously or consciously, you're a fucking liar or you suck, one of the two. And Trent did not straight up steal anything, because anything that was built upon something else, he did something original to. He did something that was missing beforehand to appeal to me, because I've listened to a lot of the original stuff, like the early Pig and Skinny Puppy and all a lot of stuff from that era. And you know what? It's really good stuff. I appreciate it now. I listen to it regularly now, but I can't say that when music was new to me and I was weaned on radio stuff and the pop structure that I would have even been interested in it. And honestly, I don't understand how these musicians could possibly hold any grudge against Nine Inch Nails at all, considering Nine Inch Nails did something just so right that got the average person interested in this rather obscure type of music. One band that was built on the foundations of previous bands did something that got people to check out the previous bands that otherwise would have never bothered to try and check out the style of music. And I didn't realize until I started doing the research how important Nine Inch Nails was to getting industrial popular in the mid-90s. So probably if it weren't for Nine Inch Nails and the the marketing people going, oh shit, this is the hot thing for a bit, I guarantee you bands like Stabbing Westward never would have got picked up and played mainstream. And John Tobias would never have been such a fan of Stabbing Westward. He made the industrial soundtrack for the first Mortal Kombat movie, which set the stage for the second Mortal Kombat movie soundtrack, which got me interested in industrial. And it's really been interesting being here and talking with a lot of the people that were really key to the industrial scene. I mean, holy crap, all the people I've talked to. And the same thing, the same common thread that I get through all of them is they don't really get why Nine Inch Nails resonated so much. And they don't understand what it is to be a whiny emo fuck. You want to listen to stuff that speaks to you. And the early industrial was the closest that Trent had to something that kind of spoke to something different in him that he hadn't really been familiar with. So he translated that through his emo fuck prism that I also have, because I'm also an emo fuck, so I can't really complain. He managed to... There was no one before him that was as whiny as him, that was also as much of a fan of music as he was. Because you listen to Nine Inch Nails, that is obviously the music of someone who has also lived through music as the only means of continuing life. The other artists never really had that down pat, and they still to this day don't get it. How this all translates back to me and what I'm doing with my CD is, my CD is, I'm not even gonna lie, I'm imitating what I've grown up with and the style of album I've listened to. And I want a lot of the elements I grew up with, because I want something that I can rage with, something that I can get pissed off with, something that well, not cry to, but, you know, I guess cut yourself to. Something that you can feel it's alright that someone else feels this shitty as you do. But at the same time, it's not, I've barred the letter I from my lyrics. I am not going to do I anything. I feel music should be empowering ultimately, so the focus is not I, it's you this, you that. It's a message that you can take and apply to yourself. It's an anthem. You can yell at people that piss you off. So while there are a lot of introspective things on this album, it's not. I realize that the time of all the imitation Nine Inch Nails stuff needs to die. We need to stop doing this, I that. In the realization that everyone goes through shit, basically, who listens to this kind of music, has their own list of shit they've probably gone through. If not, I really don't know why this music is speaking to them at all. So the focus of the lyrics is not the shit that I or you have gone through, but it is how I've dealt with it, and are these the right answers for you or not? And during the course of these last 5 years recording this fucking CD, okay, when I'm in a good mood or I'm in a bad mood, it's like for a long fucking time it's like for fucking ever. Like, oh my god, 8 months, 9 months at a time, like, well, I can't say that, because that would imply I have pockets of happiness in between, but I've only had those in few and far in between. Oh my god, I'm so glad I recorded that. But wait, shit, I can't rhyme between with between. God damn it. Fuck it, I'm gonna do it anyway. Because that's how I roll, bitch. Right, so anyway, I've been in a lot of different frames of mind. Well, two main ones, really. Really pissed off or really fucking uber depressed. And those have really affected a lot of the songs, so it's weird. This whole album is like this mishmash of moods. It's awesome. It's kind of like a time bomb. You don't know which way it's gonna go. It's just like something just mindlessly angsty, unfocused. It's just pure fucking hate shooting in every direction at anything, including itself. And I don't think that's been done yet in the style of someone who grew up listening to pop music. And at the same time, someone who is more fascinated with something that really hasn't been heard yet. I grew up listening to video game soundtracks just as much as I listen to traditional top 40 radio music, and I have not heard really any legitimate 8-bit stuff done in the style I would like to hear it, save for the Birthday Massacre. And the reason I researched, I went in depth about the relationship between Trent and the reception he got from his influences, because Birthday Massacre was one of my absolute biggest influences in recording this thing. And when I started recording this in 2007, oh my god, damn, I can't believe it's been that long since I started this iteration. Okay, so my other blog post was wrong. In 2007, when I was recovering from my brain exploding or whatever the fuck happened to me, we were recording in a rented garage. I think that was the original iteration of Phobos Anomaly, which is what we called it. And I was YouTubing Birthday Massacre, playing them non-stop because I couldn't believe what I was hearing. This was Nintendo music done perfectly, combined with the girl-fronted rock bands with an industrial tinge of the 90s, like Republica, who I was huge fans of, and Garbage. And it turned out that they were also really huge fans of Dean's as well, and they actually tried to get him to produce their one of their albums that didn't work out for some reason. And so I've always been kind of uneasy this whole time, like, God, I really hope they don't kill me for putting this CD out with the guy they tried to get. because I'm having like some moments of horror here and there. The title track off, not the title track, the first track off the CD. The CD is called Hyperviolent Porno Cartoon. The first song is called Fuck, Kill, Burn, and it has, I swear to God, the exact same riff as In the Dark off Pins and Needles. But I made that 8 months before Pins and Needles, but at the same time, that was, okay, if I was going to evolve Birthday Massacre, how would I do it to make it my own thing? And then I tried to do that, and I'm like, oh shit, that's the exact same answer they came to. So I'm hoping that, like, other stuff I'm doing isn't like, I'm being paranoid here, but, you know, just in case, I want to make sure we're cool, because they're one of my favorite bands and everything, and I would do anything to get another hug and a kiss from Chibi. Like, seriously, you have no idea. So, once I get this CD done, when we hung out, they said that they were really looking forward to hearing it, and they said they'd be down for me tagging along for a tour. I don't know if it'd be just for like a tiny leg or maybe a couple shows, but anything with Birthday Massacre would be so awesome. I have so much to say about the Birthday Massacre, I do not know where to start. I'm going to say I absolutely was furiously jealous the first time I heard them, because they instantly became my new favorite band. Because I was aiming for this kind of melody on top of riffs that was very melodic and true to 8-bit, and that it really knew how to make just a basic square wave dance with kind of a naivety of being simple. And that's because Birthday Massacre at its heart comes from a very not naive especially, but something that's learning. It comes from a source that's you can hear it's a return to not innocence, but a space and time when everything still had some mystery to it, and you were still figuring everything out. And discovering the Birthday Massacre and listening to just the greatest thing I have ever heard in the last 10 years. And it helped fill in the final piece of the puzzle that was how to put together what it is my band Mockery Defeats Posterity is, what it's grown into, and what it will be remembered as. And that's kind of the inverse to Birthday Massacre. Picture being a pissed off 13-year-old. You hate yourself, you hate the world around you, you're just pissing rage, but not quite sure how to express that. Chibi's vocals and her lyrics are some of the most heart-touching things I've heard in a long time. And just seeing what she ultimately turns out to be, just listen to Pins and Needles and listen to Secret off that. Listen to the very beginning from the Magica demo all the way to Pins and Needles Secret, and tell me that does not paint a picture of someone who starts at a very weird place and grows up into something else completely.